I'm 95 years old. That sentence alone tends to make people quiet. When people hear my age, they usually smile politely, nod their heads, and expect me to say something sweet, something safe, something that confirms what they already believe about life, love, and marriage. But what I'm about to say might make you uncomfortable. Not because it's cruel, not because I hate marriage, but because it's honest. And honesty, especially about marriage, is something most people avoid their entire lives. You see, when you've lived as long as I have, when you've watched entire generations fall in love, marry, fight, drift apart, reconnect, grow old, and sometimes grow bitter, you start to notice patterns. Patterns nobody wants to talk about. When I was a young man, marriage looked simple. You met someone. You fell in love. You promised forever. You believed love would carry you through everything. And for a while, it does. But marriage isn't what most people think it is. It's not just romance. It's not just passion. And it certainly isn't the fairy tale most people spend their lives chasing. Marriage is a mirror. And most people don't like what they see when they look into it long enough. Let me tell you something most married couples won't admit. Love doesn't disappear overnight. It fades quietly. Not because of one big betrayal, but because of thousands of small neglects. Tiny moments where one person stops paying attention. Tiny moments where the other stops feeling seen. Tiny moments where resentment quietly grows like mold in the corners of a house nobody cleans anymore. And by the time people realize what happened, the marriage is already hollow. I've watched friends marry the wrong person for the right reasons, and the right person for the wrong reasons. Some married because they were lonely, some because they were afraid of being alone. Some because society told them it was time, and some because they confused excitement with compatibility. The truth is, marriage doesn't fix loneliness. In fact, it can make loneliness far worse. There's a special kind of loneliness that only married people understand. The loneliness of sleeping beside someone who no longer sees you. The loneliness of talking but not being heard. The loneliness of feeling invisible in the very place that was supposed to be your home. When I was younger, I believed love meant finding someone who made you happy. Now I know that's wrong. Love isn't about happiness, it's about responsibility. Responsibility for another human heart. And that responsibility lasts far longer than the feelings that started it. That's the part nobody tells young couples. Feelings are temporary. Commitment is the real work. And commitment is heavy. You carry it during boring years. You carry it during angry years. You carry it when your partner changes into someone you barely recognize. Because people don't stay the same. The person you marry at 25 will not be the same person at 40. And definitely not the same person at 60. Life reshapes people. Pain reshapes people. Success reshapes people. Sometimes the two of you grow in the same direction. Sometimes you grow apart. And when that happens, you have two choices: grow again or grow bitter. Bitterness is the silent killer of marriage. Not cheating, not arguments. Bitterness. Bitterness is what happens when problems go unspoken for too long. It turns small disappointments into permanent wounds. And here's the uncomfortable truth most marriage advice never mentions. Love alone is not enough. I know that sounds harsh. Movies tell us love conquers everything. Songs tell us love will always find a way. But reality is quieter than that. Real marriages survive because of patience, because of forgiveness, because of stubborn loyalty during seasons where love feels very far away. My wife and I were married for 68 years. That surprises people. They assume it must have been perfect. It wasn't. There were years we barely spoke without arguing. Years where money was tight and stress filled every room in the house. Years where exhaustion replaced romance. Years where both of us wondered, did I choose the right person? That question scares people. But almost every long marriage has moments like that. The difference between marriages that survive and marriages that collapse is simple. Some couples treat doubt like a storm. Others treat it like proof the relationship is broken. Storms pass. But people who panic during every storm often abandon the house they built together. I'm not saying people should stay in unhealthy relationships. Some marriages absolutely should end. Cruelty, abuse, betrayal, those things destroy trust beyond repair. But many marriages don't end because of catastrophe. They end because two people stop trying at the same time. Marriage requires maintenance, just like a house. Ignore a leaking roof long enough, and the entire structure rots. But here's another uncomfortable truth. Many people enter marriage expecting their partner to make them feel complete. That expectation destroys more relationships than any affair ever could. Because no human being can carry that kind of pressure. Your partner cannot be your therapist, your identity, your happiness, your purpose. When someone expects their spouse to fill every emotional gap in their life, resentment eventually follows. The healthiest marriages I've seen weren't between people who needed each other. They were between people who chose each other, over and over again, every year, every decade. Choice is more powerful than need. Need feels romantic in the beginning, but over time it becomes suffocating. Choice, on the other hand, creates respect, and respect is the quiet foundation that holds long marriages together. Let me tell you something else most young couples misunderstand. Compatibility is not about liking the same things. My wife loved gardening. I hated dirt. I loved reading history books. She fell asleep after 2 pages. We disagreed on politics, music, movies, even how to organize the kitchen. But compatibility isn't about shared hobbies. It's about shared values. Do you handle conflict with respect? Do you apologize when you're wrong? Do you support each other when life becomes difficult? Those things matter far more than liking the same restaurants. But here's the truth that really makes people uncomfortable. Sometimes you will not like the person you married. You will love them, but you will not like them. There were days my wife annoyed me more than anyone on earth, and I'm certain she felt the same about me. Marriage forces two flawed humans to share a life. Flaws don't disappear, they become more visible. But over time, something interesting happens. Those same flaws that once irritated you start to feel familiar. And familiarity slowly turns into something deeper than passion. It turns into companionship. And companionship is the quiet secret of long marriages. Passion burns hot, but companionship endures cold winters. When you're young, you think love means excitement, butterflies, late-night conversations, holding hands in public. But when you're 95, love looks very different. Love looks like someone remembering how you take your coffee. Love looks like sitting in silence together without needing to fill the space. Love looks like holding a hand in a hospital room and realizing you would rather suffer beside that person than live comfortably without them. Those are the moments that define a marriage. Not the wedding day, not the honeymoon. The quiet, ordinary days where two people decide, I'm still here. But there's one final truth about marriage that many people only understand when it's too late. Time moves faster than you think. One day you're arguing about who forgot to buy milk. The next day you're sitting alone in a quiet house filled with memories. And suddenly, all those small arguments feel meaningless because the person you shared your life with is no longer there to argue with. My wife passed away 7 years ago. After nearly 7 decades together, the silence she left behind was louder than any argument we ever had. And that silence taught me something important. The most valuable thing in marriage isn't perfection, it's presence, being there, through boredom, through struggle, through ordinary days that seem unimportant at the time, because those ordinary days are actually your life. And one day, when you're old like me, you'll look back and realize something surprising. The goal of marriage was never to be happy all the time. The goal was to build a life that meant something together.